Salute, Knicks Nation. The streets are buzzing. How's everybody doing? What a win. Great performance tonight by these New York Knicks to bounce back at MSG and beat the Orlando Magic 98-74. Tonight was an emphatic performance on both sides of the floor, man. Locked in. Great to have Jalen Brunson return. And the New York Knicks let their play do the talking on the court tonight. It was a feel-good vibe, man. Friday night Knicks, one of the best wins of the season in the fashion that they performed, and the results, you know what it means tonight, man. In the standings, it is big time win as the Knicks now go 37-26. Great to have Brunson back. We've got some injury news to talk about as well in terms of OG Anunoby getting very close to returning back to the season. He's just day to day now. Participated in full practice, right? And we're going to talk about that later as some results went the New York Knicks' way tonight around the league as well. But this game, man, the Knicks were locked in from the very beginning, which is what you want to see after a 2-day rest. And it showed. You know, they came out, they were swishing, they were hitting the threes early, and made a statement, you know, emphatically in the first quarter. The first half, you know, took a 16-point lead at the end of the half, but the New York Knicks were shooting, 56% from three in that first half, fueled by defense, double-double, and career-high 5 blocks from precious Achiuwa. Put some respect on his name, right? Amazing performance, right? He just goes from strength to strength, guys. I want you to let me know what is his ceiling, right? You know, because he's really playing great defense, right? And we don't win this ball game if he doesn't lock down Paolo Banchero as well. So one of the great feel-good stories of tonight, right? The first one, of course, is to get the captain back, Captain Clutch, Jalen Brunson. He led the way. Didn't really need to do a whole lot. Yeah, he was just Brunson, penetrating, devastating. He got to the lane, hit his threes, and got to sit. He got to sit in the fourth quarter with about 3 and a bit of change to go, which was huge. But, man, we had ourselves a block party tonight. Precious Achiuwa, Isaiah Hartenstein, man, huge blocks, man, on the glass as well. The New York Knicks established dominance, but the three-point shooting, thank God, guys, that has returned. And what a sight, right? As we gear up now, this is the time to lock in. The home straight to the season is here, and we need wins like this, right? But great to hear that OG Anunoby is getting very close, man. He might return next game, or maybe the second game against Philly. But we get this win, right? And we basically overtake Orlando back into the 4th seed tonight. So we are back into 4th. Philly lost, and we'll look at the standings around the league, the games tonight as well, as the Bucks take on the Lakers later. The Heat are currently down to the Thunder, and the Cavs are only 3 points up on the Timberwolves with 3 minutes remaining as well. So it could be a clean sweep for the New York Knicks and results going in our way. But speaking of things going in our way, man, big dub against what is a team that was trying to catch us. We held Paolo to 23 points. Precious, he was pivotal. 5 blocks, outstanding. Dante DiVincenzo got 3 assists. Precious with 14 rebounds as well. And of course, Jalen Brunson with his 26 points. And the 3-point shooting was on fire tonight. Home cooking, 48% from 3. We hit 6 of 8 from the free throw line as well. All the starters, man, domination in the plus. Guys, salute. 90s type basketball, yeah. Like Knicks 26 champ says. Shout out. This was a wire-to-wire victory, and we don't get many like that. But on top of that, right, we hold the Orlando Magic to the lowest score of the NBA season thus far, right? Lower than the Detroit Pistons have scored, lower than the Wiz, any team. 74 points tonight, man. This was a statement. And I tweeted it out early. This was a game where the Knicks remembered how the Magic celebrated after their last win in Orlando. That one left a sour taste in my mouth, man. We're finally getting guys back. Finally, guys, we're starting to really see the light at the end of the tunnel here in this home straight. As the Knicks have 19 games remaining, right? If we go 13-6, we can get to 50 wins. We'll talk about that later as well, but that's the statistic. 19 games remaining with 37 wins. What do you guys think? If we can win the next couple, it's going to obviously make that look a little bit easier as well. We've got Philly and Philly, both at home. Philly lost tonight. They're reeling. No Joel Embiid, of course. But yeah, 13 wins, 6 more losses. We get to 50 wins for the first time since 2013. That's the target for me. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I'm not sitting here saying the Knicks will do it. But that's just something that's going to help us lock up, I think, the 4th seed or higher. You know, that could get us 3rd even as well. Julius Randle working his way back. He'll be back very soon as well. But OG, the closest Knick to returning in his day-to-day. No limitations, full practice, taking contact. It's just a matter of, does he feel good tomorrow after the practice? And then he could be a go, man. I'm hyped after this win, guys. Salute Will, Nick Yak, and Chat. Yeah, Miles McBride was outstanding once again. He hit a huge mid-range bucket, Nick Yak, towards the end to put it back up to 20. I was kind of thinking, would Orlando make a little run once we sat Brunson, but it was toast after that. So yeah, finally, man, no cardiac Knicks. We can salute and we can cheers, man. These guys, salute. Yeah, as you see, most of the Knicks tonight were all in the plus. Shout out to Precious Achiuwa for his double-double and his career high, right? We're going to give him his flowers and the rest of the squad and continue to shout you guys out. That's what we do. Yeah, welcome in to the post-game live with CT. EJ might be coming through later as well. We'll see, but EJ's been on his grind, as we know. We'd love to have EJ through tonight if he can make it. But yeah, you guys and me, we'll hold it down, and we'll give the flowers, the grades like we do, and we'll look around the league, because tonight was a huge night for the rest of the season in terms of momentum, guys. And it starts with this guy, Game Ball. What a return! The captain. I don't know about you guys, man, but every time he gets hit and falls over to the floor, you get a little bit nervous now. And Anthony Black was trying to be the Nick nemesis tonight. It was D'ing up on JB as best as he could. Obviously, you take that as a big respect. They were really trying to get into Brunson's grill, 1v1. But yeah, we've seen the blueprint. The only way you can beat Brunson is you can't. You try to double him, and he has to kick the ball out, and will make people pay with the 3-point shooting that the New York Knicks have. And we're just going to get more shooters back, guys. We're going to get OG, obviously with Julius returning as well. Shake Milton got his Knick debut tonight. But yeah, that man, Josh Hart, he was outstanding tonight with his hustle. And we're going to give out his flowers now. But in terms of Brunson's performance, let's look at his numbers. Guys, I want to hear your grades for the captain returning. 11 of 19, 4 of 7 from 3, outstanding, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 26 points, cool, calm as you like, 23 plus in the plus minus in just 28 minutes. That might be the best number of the night, fam. 28 minutes from Jalen Brunson, right? So what a way to return. Easy way back in, fam. And no need to play big minutes tonight. It was a cakewalk in the end. So yeah, Darryl, salute, great win. Nick, buzzer beater in the chat, salute. Will says, I missed this one, but I love what I see in the numbers. Yep. Statement win, Will. Basically, we took control of the game in the first quarter, and up 16 at the half, one of the best halves of the season. It helps when the shots fall, but the defense was the most outstanding thing early. We yeah, we didn't give them easy buckets all night. Like, I mean, obviously it shows, man, 74 points is lousy and the lowest of this NBA season for any team, which is crazy. But if any team was going to do it, it was going to be the New York Knicks, man. Block party. We were a fortress tonight. And I shout out to MSG, the crowd. Everyone was hyped, ready for New York Knicks basketball. You know, it was 2 days layoff, and the Knicks returned like they did have 2 days off. Finally, everybody looked rested. Everybody looked locked in and ready for this final stretch, guys, as well. No poor Knicks tonight. Some guys were a little inefficient. But in terms of rebounding, it was close. I'm going to pull up the teams. Yeah, the Knicks won rebounding by 1. So it wasn't really lopsided. But the Knicks seemed to get those key rebounds, as Buzzer Beater was asking. The Knicks, yeah, it seemed like Hart, Precious, Sims, we just got those loose balls tonight, the 50-50 balls that helped us control the ball game. And you know, it's no coincidence you get that when you're hustling. You know, you're on your toes, not on your heels. Like Francis Ngannou, for anyone that saw the heavyweight fight before the game, man, I was tuned in, locked in as well. Anthony Joshua knocked out Francis Ngannou, man, in vicious fashion, just like the New York Knicks knocked out Orlando today, man, and sent them a statement to say, hey, we are the more experienced team here. We're on the road to a top 4 seed, right? You can't hang with us. And we're missing 2 of our starters as well. But in terms of Brunson and his performance, man, what a return. Efficient, and deadly. His 3-point ball, it's like he hadn't missed a beat. Playing like an all-star, all-NBA, A+, and the game ball for me tonight. But there's going to be more than one game ball tonight, such as the win. I mean, what a beatdown. 24 points. I respect the Magic, you know. I mean, they've beaten us 3 times this season, and I was not taking this game lightly, nor were the New York Knicks. You know, we knew we had to be locked in tonight. But what a boost it was to get Brunson back. He was game time decision, so it went all the way to the warm-ups. It was a wait and see how he felt, you know, after the warm-ups, and he felt great. He ticked all the boxes. Now, as I said earlier, he did take some hits throughout the game. Got knocked to the floor maybe 10 times as well. But that's how he plays. You know, he plays so hard, so locked in and physical as well. And that's what allows him to, to get to his spots, and dominate, guys. So yeah, JB, buzzer beaters, also A+. Welcome to the club, fam. Good to see Shake Milton also getting into the ball game last minute or so. We'll see if he takes some minutes from Alec Burks, who we will talk about, guys. But on to the next one as we continue to give out these guys flowers and their efforts tonight. Big win, 11 games over 500 now, and it's blue skies right now as OG's about to return, and some really winnable games about to come through, right, as we're going to talk about in the road ahead later tonight. But if you enjoy the content, let us know, give us a like, and let us know your grades in the comment section. And the chat's popping right now, as it always does after a big win. And this man, my God, man, Precious Achiuwa, career night, double-double, and 5 blocks. Let's look at his numbers, man. And also appreciate what he did for the game tonight, man. Firstly, as I said, he locked down Paolo Banchero, man. This was a contrast to the last game where we saw Paolo dominate us and put up plus 30 points. Yeah, he had an easy night the last time we played Orlando. But man, tonight nothing was coming easy for the Magic. Precious was all over the court, hit 2 threes, 2 of 4 from deep, right? Hit one of his 2 free throws, 14 rebounds, 3 offensive, with 4 assists, 2 steals, and a 5 block piece. block party on Fifth Ave, and 3 turnovers, 15 points on a plus 25, fam. Team high, plus 25, man. Those are Wilt numbers, man. No cap, man. That's insane. His performance tonight, man. Good to see him hit those threes. And good to see him, get the better of his matchup, I felt, right? Yes, Paolo put up 23, but, Precious, you can stop Paolo, and you basically stop the Magic, right? That's how much respect I got for him, right? He's an all-star, early in his career and all of that stuff, man. But a second game ball has to go to Precious Achiuwa tonight. He gets a gold star as well because he's playing like a most improved player around the league. You even hear some of the Knicks announcers, Kenny Albert, Walt Clyde Frazier tonight, talk about how surprised they are still that nobody was really expecting this kind of production from Chewy, in the trade. And then the Raptors trade just looks even better with this guy. He's going to be a big factor towards the straight of this season, and also probably in the playoffs too. The way he's playing and the way he's defending is going to get Tom Thibodeau's trust, guys. It's going to really, make it difficult for Tibbs to say, I can't play you, in the playoffs, right? His defense is leading his performances as well. 5 blocks and a couple of steals, and cleaning the glass, man, like a cleaner out here, man. I must admit, the most thing that I'm impressed by with Precious is his ability to play up with his size. He's not the tallest guy, but he doesn't really look outmanned, outmuscled at all. Maybe he's deceptively taller. His wingspan really, really helps, obviously, with the blocks, and protecting the rim, and he's holding us down in the absence of Mitch and in minutes restriction with Hart, who we're going to hit on in a minute. But yeah, Precious's numbers, man, it's always good to see him play well towards this end of the season and have his career high in blocks, as a Knick. And he's playing like a most improved, because it's insane the difference level in his Toronto performances where he was basically situational, and right now not only is he picking up game balls, but he's basically impacting games for a top 4 club. So yeah, I'm leading the train, man, leading the boat, the captain of re-signed Precious. Knicks 26 champs, agree, 100%. We need to keep guys like that, right? They have the DNA of a New York Knick inside of them, because he plays both sides. He's young, and he's got a higher ceiling as well. Tonight 2 of 4 from deep. That's just gravy. You take that, and if you can continue to stretch it out a little bit in the corner, that's going to be big, man, for floor spacing. Yeah, and I agree what Buzz is saying too. Chewy can put the ball on the floor and create as well. I like when he did the little hesitation dribble handoff, and he took Paolo to the rack late in the second as the Knicks finished on a 9-0 run to end the first half. I thought that was one of our best closes to the half of the season, man. I was kind of waiting. Would the lead continue, or would they catch up a bit? But the Knicks ended on a 9-0 run, man, and went into the halftime break feeling great, up 16, and it was in control after that with 8 blocks in the first half. Most of them were Precious, but of course Isaiah as well continued to ball out. The funny thing is, in limited minutes as well. Wait till we get a full Hartenstein, who's not on minutes restriction as well. Who knows if we will get that? But it's going to be big if we do, and as well as obviously going to get Mitch back as well, which we've got some things to talk about with later with Mitch too. But this guy had a great game, 2 games ago. Came back down a little bit last game, but Josh Hart was outstanding tonight again. He was in their skin. He was chirping back at Joey Ingles, Slow Mo Joe. Loves to loves to trash talk, and Hart was up for it, man. He was, he was really aggressive, which I love. You could feel like this club, took it personally, this matchup tonight. I thought Hart really set the tone in the first half as well. He played 42 minutes, once again, beasting, 8 of 12, 3 of 5. So the three-point shot has really, really, really improved since All-Star break. 7 boards, of course, he's always amongst it. 2 offensive, got us 4 assists and 19 points and a plus 23. Man, Josh Hart was all over the place tonight as well, stuffing the stat sheet. What did you guys think about Hart's performance, man? I thought he was in the top 3 Knicks tonight. Again, he set the tone. I love his ability to run the fast break. And when he finished it over Franz Wagner, man, that was one of the best plays of the season, I felt. It blew the roof off MSG, man. Yeah, the way he rips down these rebounds is insane. I haven't seen a guard rebound like Josh Hart in my days. And I say guard, he can play, he's a guard, but he's got the strength, and the physicality of a power forward, basically, in a guard's body. But he's super strong, and look out playoffs, man. He's gonna make things hell for the other team, man. Never gives up. Always diving for a loose ball. Always making an impact, right? Whether the scoreboard is we're 20 points up or whether we're 20 points down, Josh Hart is always leaving it all out there on the floor, man. I got to give him... I mean, he was so efficient, so I'm going to give Josh also the A+ tonight, man. I mean, 19 points is so handy. Also long term, man, he's been, filling in as a starter for so long now that I kind of forget what it's like to see a Josh Hart come off the bench. I can't really imagine now, obviously it's going to happen when OG and when Randall return. But yeah, with Hart giving us this impact off the bench, that's really going to be a game changer, man. The bench is going to go from strength to stronger, man. And it's basically going to be, a guy who's worthy starting back to the bench as well. But obviously those minutes do need to come down. You can't have this man, playing 42 minutes on a nightly basis, man. We need to save that energy for the playoffs. Like I seen, yeah. A+ buzzer as well, on the money. His jumper ain't pretty, yeah. You're on the money again. Josh Hart's jumper is a little hitchy, but it's improved. Whatever he's doing, man, he just needs to keep doing it. And sometimes it's mental as well, because a lot of those shots are the same looks he was getting, but they're open. And when you don't hesitate and you just shoot it, believe in your talent, your instinct, it usually has a better chance of going down, man. But yeah, shout out to him. He put in the work throughout the All-Star period. Did Hart, yeah, and it's shown, man. I'd love to see his. I'm going to look at his percentage after the All-Star break, but it's got to be above 38% or 35% at least. Tonight, 60%. I mean, it's insane when he can shoot 3 or 5 as well. But also, that's what the teammates are going to allow for him. Because Magic, they respect Jalen Brunson. He pulls gravity. Dante DiVincenzo pulls gravity. So when we get to the point where OG and Randall return, other guys are going to get these open looks as well. It's going to make life easier for everybody out there as well. Man, I can't imagine how the Magic would have dealt with OG in the corner there, as well as Devo, with Brunson at the top of the key and Randall down low. It's like pick your poison as well. I tell you, man, when the Avengers return, everything that we expected the club to be able to achieve is going to be realistic. I think when everybody's back, OG back day to day now, he might return next game or maybe the game after that. But it's definitely going to be in the next within the next 3 to 4 or 5 days, if he feels good tomorrow, after the practice as well. So that's big. Uh, is this the final roster, man? Great question. Now, I think it's very, very close. So if I pull it up now, obviously we got one more spot. Well, we actually got two more spots, sorry. I correct myself, man. Daquan Jeffries' 10 days is officially expired. But people might be wondering, man, why haven't the Knicks made another addition? Well, there's something in the cap where the Knicks can be one player short of the minimum for 14 days, and then they've got to make a signing as well. As we got someone backstage now, and I pull them up in the building, the one and only EJ, brother.
What's
Go New
going
York,
on?
go. What's going on, brother?
Good to see you, CT. How you doing, my friend? Shout out to all of the Knicks buzzers. How you guys doing? Long time no see. We talking
Yeah,
about
what?
something tonight?
Yeah, a Knicks dub, but great to see you, man. I know you've been, on your grind and taking care of business, but yeah, people
Yes,
have been
sir.
asking about you and wishing you well. Um,
Thank you.
yeah,
Thank
and
you.
it's great to see you and celebrate a Knicks win, man. How did you see it tonight?
First off, shout out to the entire Knicks Buzz family. It's been a long time since I've been on. Life is lifing, as they like to say, but I really appreciate all of the well wishes. CT and I, we chat periodically, but it's good to be back on. It's been a while since I've had a chance to talk about a lot of the Knicks news, injuries, particularly to Randall and OG, Hartenstein periodically in and out of the lineup with minutes restrictions. Jalen Brunson, also being, hey, what's up, Will? Jalen Brunson being off the court. But what we saw tonight is the beginnings of what this team could possibly be, with each particular piece that's supposed to be part of the starting lineup. With each one, what's up, Buzzer? With each one that's part of the starting lineup that comes back, I think we'll see the Knicks shift into a different gear. Without question, without fail, Jalen Brunson is the key to the ignition. He is the ignition, he's the accelerator. But I do think that as we start to see certain pieces, and I know that OG is the next one up, um, we see this team as a different kind of team. So I think this particular season and this particular game, we see this as a chapter of the season. So hopefully, this is the starting page of the chapter where we get to see a healthy Knicks squad, because this is almost atypical of a Tom Thibodeau Knicks team. I'm not going to talk about Minnesota. I'm not going to talk about Chicago, but for the most part, for the last few years, this Knicks roster has been healthy. I know that there were a couple of early on. We had Julius being injured towards the end of the season, but this Jalen Brunson iteration of the Knicks squad in the past 4 years, this is different. So this is shocking for us, but it's good to see them have such a solid win against a pretty good Orlando Magic team.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And we're just giving out a couple of grades. Brunson's return, he got the A plus.
Absolutely.
Also, Precious Achiuwa, I think tonight was probably his best game as a New York Knick. He limited Paolo, as well as the rebounds, 5 blocks, and Hart. I thought he set the tone as well. Who are your players to the game, and what were the keys to the Knicks, holding the Magic to 74 points?
Well, I think the key to the game was definitely what transpired in the first quarter. The first quarter, you could see that Orlando's shot just wasn't dropping, and um, the Knicks were on fire from three. The other thing that I would definitely say in terms of being one of the keys to the game, and I would say for the rest of the season, is Isaiah Hartenstein. This relationship between Isaiah Hartenstein and Precious Achua, a front court that is more mobile and offensively intelligent, because that allows for there to be more movement between DiVincenzo, Hart, and Brunson. I think part of what we see with Hartenstein seeming to have a little bit more bounce in his step tonight, um, with Hartenstein having a little bit more bounce in his step tonight, you could see that sort of energy move towards Hart. Hart is always an energy guy, but you saw a lot more ball movement, and also the key element to this tonight was player movement. There was a lot of player movement, something we may not have seen in the past, 2 or 3 weeks. As much of it tonight, I don't know if it was like the additional rest, but the Knicks' legs were really spry, a lot of movement, and you could see it just in Josh Hart's affect. He had a swag about him. He had a swagger about him tonight, where he was like, "Yeah, I'm the man tonight." So definitely A+ for Josh Hart. Definitely an A+ for Jalen Brunson. I would even give it, for relative to his role, an A+ to Precious Achua, because they really did a lot of the work that needed to happen. And even when it got somewhat close, it was going to be a blowout tonight.
Yeah, you mentioned something that I was going to also add, which was so key. But yeah, great minds think alike, brother.
Mhm.
That the Knicks had 2 days rest, and I can't really remember that many times this season where, if we get these kind of Knicks where they look like they've got their legs under them, then we're going to get these type of performances where, and even better when guys return. OG Anunoby, what are your thoughts on him being day to day now? He might return against Philly in the next 2 games.
It's an exciting proposition, because what it does, then we start to have a good problem, because when you add a healthy piece that's fully rested, into the stretch run of, like, really trying to push for playoff positioning, OG Ananobi potentially either sits Josh Hart or Precious Chua. This allows for those two players to play their more natural role and strengthens that second unit. I think one of the things that we saw, if there were a negative for tonight, that second unit needs a little bit more cohesion. It needs a little bit more leadership. If you have a Josh Hart on the floor, really being the captain of that second unit, with a really, and let's give it up for Deuce McBride. Like, Deuce McBride has taken a quantum leap, this year. He's really matured, but OG Ananobi all of a sudden not only strengthens the first unit upon his return, he strengthens the second unit. And again, we have to give props to Leon Rose for the OG trade, because who knew that we would not only get OG in the trade, but we would get Precious Achua, and the minutes he's put in, the tenacity, the seamless way he's integrated himself on the roster. So it's like, again, like, it's like we get additional roster players, and it allows for people to feel better in their more natural roles, both in the first unit and the second unit.
Yeah, I love what you said as well earlier about their mobility. Him and Hartenstein, the front court. Um, Precious at the five does struggle a bit, because he
Yeah,
obviously is little undersized. But in terms of you mentioned also mentally, man, he's kind of like seeing the game really well. He's making good reads. And one of the knocks from Raptors fans coming in from Precious was that he's um, quite boneheaded at times. Prone to some boneheaded plays and stuff. But we haven't really seen that. So I got to
no,
give credit to, firstly, Precious, but also the coaching staff as well, because he has improved since he came to the Knicks. It was a little like average. It was a couple of average games. It was even a couple of poorer games. But that Precious Achua to this one now, he's clearly shown a lot of growth, since he's been a Nick as well. So he's clearly loving the vibes.
no, absolutely. I think, I also think that one of the things that we often, as NBA fans, as Knicks fans, we sometimes underrate is the fit of a player relative to the team. You can look at a player and look at their box score, and I often hear this on sports radio, how we talk about players from the past, and we just look at their numbers. Numbers sometimes don't speak to the fit of a player on a particular roster. Like, I don't want to jump into this, but let's say, for example, Donovan Mitchell on in Utah versus Donovan Mitchell in Cleveland versus Donovan Mitchell potentially in New York. The numbers can't really speak to the fit, you know, and sometimes a player just fits better in a particular location for a variety of different reasons. Like, for example, if I were to pull another example, let's say Kristaps. Kristaps in his first 4 years, there was a maturity issue. There was a, ego issue. And that doesn't diminish what kind of player he was, but the mental, emotional maturity aspect of the game wasn't a great fit for the Knicks roster at that particular time. So I think one of the things that we're seeing with Precious is perhaps he's rounded a corner because the fit is better. There's more of an identifiable role for him. There might be a more articulated role for him here versus what was transpiring in Toronto. And it may have just clicked. So um, I think that we can never underestimate it. I'll give you one more example. Isaiah Hartenstein. Isaiah Hartenstein is like the perfect example of location, fit, growth, and then all of a sudden you see the maturation of a player, and you're like, wait, this is what he was, and Isaiah Hartenstein's going to get a bag this summer, maybe with the Knicks, maybe with another team.
Man, you come out on fire today.
I got
um,
to. I was out for a
yeah,
long time.
yeah, emptying the clip. Um, yeah, man, I completely forgot about Isaiah. I was even about to mention Dante and how
Mhm.
he's come to the Knicks with higher volume and shown that hey, I could have done this with Golden State. But of
Yeah.
course, you've got the best shooter of all time, Steph Curry, there as well. So why not choose the New York Knicks, a team where you can slot right in? And he displaced Quentin Grimes early, which wasn't easy. Grimes basically had the keys, but Devo's play, it was too good to keep on the bench because we needed, that spacing. As well. It's funny that Curry did advise DiVincenzo as well on his free agency decision to come to the New York Knicks as well. So what did you think about DiVincenzo, his season he's having, and as well as really holding us down since these guys have been out.
DiVincenzo has been an incredible. I mean, I think one of the things that we've seen this season is players that I would have never thought that this was what Dante DiVincenzo could be. So much so that as the injury bug started to hit the squad, we needed to make Dante into our number two scorer because there were so many games in which he was carrying the offensive load. I do think that to a certain extent, the last couple of games he may be getting tired. I think that he's had to shoulder so much of the offensive load because we've had so many games in the last 2 weeks where we've had a 7-man roster, an 8-man roster, or an 8-man rotation, a 7-man rotation. So I do think that he might be hitting like some sort of physical wall. But this is a pickup this season where you have to be really proud of the front office for this kind of pick. Um, I do think that at this point, especially when OG comes back, I would hope that Tom Thibodeau is really thinking about like shortening a little bit of Dante's minutes because it really is kind of clear like his stroke is coming up a little bit short because he had a clip last month, in the month of January in particular. What I mean, whenever he would shoot, he was just unconscious. So, but for the most part, like I would say, like he has been one of the most important pickups because as much as I loved Q Dot, um, the consistency wasn't there. His defensive tenacity was definitely there. Like he had a commitment to defense, but that ability to have that clutch three to be able to consistently spread the floor, that was the part of it that was sort of disconcerting. So I do love the fact that Dante has been the one to be able to do that.
Yeah, man, he's one of the signings of the season for me in
Absolutely.
terms of the mid-level money and what he's been able to do. Hold us down defensively, and just be really a two-way player. A lot of the times the Knicks have had so much talent, but they only play one side of the floor as well.
Hmm.
And you really see what we can do with OGs, with Devos, with Harts, Isaiahs, and obviously Randall and Brunson. They're more of a one-way player, but that's fine because you
Hmm.
need that. You need your superstars to put the ball in the cup. But even their effort has improved this season as well. So timely win tonight, EJ. In the standings, the Knicks hold on to the fourth seed now. Um, 37 and 26. Now, I said this earlier just before you came on.
Hmm.
19 games remain. If the Knicks can go 13 and 6, will get to 50 wins for the first time in a decade. Now, that doesn't mean it's a success for me. I mean that the Knicks don't have to hit that to be a success, but I think that might make sure that they hold on to the fourth spot or even the third as well. But with OG returning, maybe next game, could you see the Knicks go 13-6 um, around there?
We should play a game that's very popular on New York sports radio, which is the win loss 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 win game. So we can go game by game. But hey, now that I'm back here tonight, I do think I don't remember because it's been a long time. So I'm kind of saying this as a joke, but I'm also kind of saying this to be serious. I do think I did predict that they would be in 50 win territory at the beginning of the season. I do think that was my prediction. Obviously, if there weren't as many injuries, and you can't play that game if there weren't injuries because every team has injuries. But this was a team at the end of January. If we all were having this conversation end of January and there were no injuries, we would safely say 50 wins, strong possibility, second seed, very strong possibility, at worst third. And the fact that we're still in the conversation for top four, that I would sign up for that, especially at the start of the season. And you never know. Hey, you never know. As much as Boston is, a class above the rest of the league, a class above the rest of the conference, the rest of the East, if the Knicks can get healthy, if they can get right, they have a puncher's chance. So are 50 wins a possibility? I think it's dependent upon if we can get Mitch or Julius with some reasonable time before the end of the regular season. Um, I do think that Julius is going to be the key. Julius is going to be the key. And what kind of Julius Randle do we get? Because shoulder dislocations, from everything that I've read, from all of the interviews that I've seen, they can be tricky, they can be spotty. And even though he might be on the court, and what we've learned about Julius, despite issues of temperament from time to time, is that he is someone who's willing to play even if he's not 100%. But would that be to the detriment of a playoff push? We don't know.
Yeah, yeah, you're speaking knowledge as always. No doubt Randall's going to take this team to the highest tier, whatever that is, Eastern Conference finalist, NBA finalist. Uh, he was playing really well when he went down.
Hmm.
And we only really got to see that stretch with OG and him for that run, and then he got injured against the Heat. But yeah, as we continue talking, guys, the chat's popping. Great win tonight. Nick's buzzing. Smash that like button. Um, I gave DiVincenzo a B plus,
Hmm.
just a B minus. Sorry, just because he was a bit inefficient, but really impacted the game still with his 4 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, and a block as well. And Isaiah Hartenstein's grade coming up. What did you see from those two, EJ, with Devo and Isaiah?
I'll speak about Hartenstein because one of the things that really impressed me tonight with Hartenstein is there was a sequence in the first quarter where there was such fluid ball movement. And what Hartenstein does really well, like he had a touch pass to the left hand corner that led to DiVincenzo three. I think that play speaks to what happens when Hartenstein is healthy and what he's able to do as a big man. And it's not about the points that he scores, it's about the way that he keeps the offense flowing and how you can see how he's constantly thinking. And so that play in and of itself, and I should have written it down. Um, that play early first, I think towards the end of the first quarter, really spoke to what Hartenstein adds to the offense. Now, clearly for tonight, it was a wire to wire win for the most part. By the time we got to the tail end of the second half, of the second quarter, rather, this was a 16-point lead that ballooned very quickly to a 20-point lead early third quarter. And so I think that there's an extent to which the game that Hardenstein was incomplete, but he did seem to have more legs tonight than what he typically had been having in the past 2 weeks, particularly with the hamstring concern. So I see you on the screen that you rated him an A. I graded him an A too because his performance tonight really left me feeling less concerned about him going into the playoffs because again there was a lot of talk about 21 minutes being his minute restriction. He looked really good tonight, and again when he's on the court, he really adds to the fluidity of the ball movement, and that was evident in tonight's game. What did you think, CT?
Yeah, you hit it, man. Limited minutes, and it's tough to really predict. When is he going to be able to get back to the full minutes? But we've still got as I said, the 19 games, and I think let's just continue to be cautious.
Hmm.
We're going to get maybe that boost with Mitch back really soon, and you would assume one of them's going to assume the bench role, and at least spell the other one for less minutes. I mean, to me, fans look at it like more of a battle. I'm looking at more like if Mitch is back, that just helps the Knicks, right? It's a good headache, right?
Yes,
I don't really care who starts. I don't even care who plays as many minutes. All I know is if Mitch is back, it's going to help Isaiah. And
absolutely.
if Mitch is returning, Isaiah being there healthy is going to help Mitch come back to, easing himself back. So, and we know EJ, we have the best center rotation in the NBA with these guys. Man, it was a block party in Brooklyn tonight, in the streets of New York, all over. The block party of the New York Knicks
Absolutely.
handle their business. Yeah, with those two guys, and then the bench next. EJ, why don't you hit the first guy, which is Miles Deuce McBride? What a what a performance, yeah, he's been putting in recently since coming in. Right? What do you see differently from Deuce, if anything?
Maturation. This is what we see. That's the arc of the NBA career. For many players who are not going to be your superstar Hall of Famers, the arc of their careers, the first couple of years, tend to be somewhat pedestrian. Even for some of your Hall of Fame players, let's go back to Kobe, his first year or two. I remember the shot in the playoffs where he shoots it against Utah, and the entire Lakers squad is looking at him like you lack this maturation. It takes a lot of players in the league a couple of years to really start to understand not just what their game is, but now because so many players are coming out of college only after a year or two, they're also like discovering their bodies. They still haven't had the full development of their adult male bodies. So it seems like Deuce has kind of now started to figure out, oh, this is what I can do on the court. Obviously, there's still holes to his game. There's still stumbling blocks, for example, learning how to quickly get the team into offense and to make sure that people get into sets, not approaching or going into the lane with timidity or being scared, but going in the lane assertively. But one of the things that's really key, and we've all started to notice this, his 3-point shot is going down more consistently now. And that was something we could not say a couple of years ago. And secondly, he has this little midi shot that is becoming more and more of a threat. And that is amazing. If you can have a midi shot plus a 3-point shot that you're hitting at, 38%, 39%, um, all that's missing for Deuce, and maybe this is what happens in the off season, is learning what to do when he goes into the paint. If you have that, you have a great backup point guard to Jalen Brunson. So I'd really give Deuce a solid performance tonight, a B plus. But this young man is growing right before our very eyes.
Yeah, I agree, man. The shot has been the biggest aspect that's been really a breath of fresh air in terms of we needed that with quickly gone. We needed a backup who can shoot just as well, but the defense is always outstanding.
Mm,
But yeah, the little mid range has really caught my eye, as you said
mm,
tonight. It's a real high arcing
yeah.
shot, but he's been hitting it consistently. And I swear I've seen him put up a couple of floaters as well. So maybe he does have that floater game. But we see the footage on screen, that big 4-point play where
Oh
he
yeah.
that's confidence. EJ, he backed out. He saw Paolo and he's like, okay, you're not going to guard me. I'm going to step back out to the 3-point line and knock this down. That was a great play.
Yeah, that's evidence of maturation. That's also, one of the things that, as fans we sometimes look at and we get really 2K obsessed is we look at the stats. I'm just going to say this too. Like, there's something to be said about having a player of Jalen Brunson's caliber that you can study and you can learn from. Anyone who's in any field, the person doesn't necessarily have to like pull you to the side and teach you. Sometimes it's just by looking at what they're doing and getting to see it up close. You learn through observation. And so one of the things that's happened is that Deuce McBride for the past season and a half now, more than a half now, about 75% of the season, has had the opportunity to look at Jalen Brunson's game and really start to maybe become self-reflective of his own game, to think of what are the elements of the game that I could add to the stuff that I've already was doing well. Deuce McBride has always been a great defender. There's a tenacity from day one. That's something we've always noticed. One of the things that he does incredibly well. This is a guy who, and he does this better than Jalen Brunson, is he's in the passing lane. He loves to ball hawk in the passing lanes. So he has the possibility, and I agree with you, Trini. He has the possibility of being a very, very dangerous player. So I'm looking forward to seeing what this young man could do um, in the near future.
Yeah, he'll get an A from me, as I'll bring up his numbers in a minute. But yeah, Trini, on the money, Deuce is becoming a very dangerous player. Yeah, he's still so young. You know, as
Yep.
people kind of forgot that he's been around us for a while, and he made it to his second contract, and we know how rare that is,
Yeah.
EJ, that
Yeah.
a New York Knicks drafted player can make it to the second contract, and a 3-year handy tidy extension. Um, Deuce was 5 of 7, 3 of 3 from deep,
Wow.
3 rebounds, 2 steals, an assist, 14 points and a +1. So yeah, I mean, that's outstanding for a backup point guard in 19 minutes
Yeah.
to put up those kind of tidy numbers as well. Be efficient from three. Um, Great. And what do you think is going to happen in the playoffs? As we're going to move to Alec Burks and the rest of the bench, but with those guys in mind and the way Deuce is playing, how could you see a rotation possibly? What would you like to see done, and what do you think Tibbs is going to do?
Well, I think like as we start to move towards the rotation, a lot of what's going to transpire is going to be based upon Julius's health. I think Julius's health and availability will determine a lot. The same is also true with Mitch. At this point, it's pretty clear that Jalen Brunson is your number one. He is the key to the car. He's the ignition. He's the foot on the gas pedal. He is the gas pedal. You might even argue he's the whole car. So he's there. Dante is there. Josh Hart is there. So that's three. OG, we're assuming will be back sometime next week, maybe late next week. So that's your four. You have Isaiah Hartenstein. That's your five. At this point, then this is where minutes start to get kind of difficult. Precious Achua, I think, has shown himself to be a valuable asset. He does a lot of the stuff that Tom Thibodeau loves, especially getting those rebounds. He's your six. Um, Now it's starting to get very hairy. So, the 7, 8, 9, I think you have to put Bogdanovich in because he adds an element that really helps the team. Although that you could argue that sometimes he does force his shot. If Julius is there, maybe that's it. And plus Deuce. And that's not even speaking to Mitchell Robinson. And so this is where we're now getting to the point of having a real pleasant problem to have. But I also think it'll be relative to the matchups that we're playing. Um, if we're playing against a hypothetically, if we're playing against a Milwaukee, those matchups will be different than playing against a Philadelphia or an Orlando or a Cleveland. So I think that's the luxury of how this team has been constructed for the playoff run. I think you'll have a seven that are pretty consistent, but I think your last two, your 8 and your 9, will be relative to the playoff matchup.
Yeah, man, I got so many follow-ups for that, but um, yeah, one of them is going to be who is your preferred matchup? But because of you invoke that in me in terms of like I like what you said in terms of you got to match up. You got to match up, and one guy could win you a series, and then
Yeah,
you kind of shelf him for the next series. Like
yeah,
that's just the nature of the playoffs.
yeah,
We might not need two bigs that are 7 feet one if the other squad's going small.
yeah.
That's the example. But the way any guy fits in is a Deuce McBride, a Precious. They can play up to their size. They're mobile. Like in Deuce's case, he could guard one, twos, and some threes. OG, he's going to be that Swiss Army knife
Yeah,
to
yeah.
EJ. But do you expect Tibbs here to give those guys like OG Randall and that 42 minutes and just play another guy maybe 5 minutes like that backs them up?
I don't know if he can at this point because the amount of minutes, amount of quality minutes that a Precious Achua has played and demonstrated that there's been growth, there's been buying into the system, there's been this ability to, and I also think that Julius's health condition will necessitate for Tom to say, as much as I would love to play him 35, 38, 40 minutes, I may not be able to do it because, again, dislocated shoulders are like one of those injuries in sports, particularly in basketball, where you kind of live with the anxiety of it reoccurring. Also, Julius has not played in what almost amounts to 2 months. And basketball shape, basketball wind, and this is going to be the same concern for Mitch, in as much as that they may be doing contact drills, or doing light running. Um, there's a difference in terms of like running and basketball running, particularly when we're talking about trying to maintain the same level of speed and pace that was exhibited in tonight's game. So I think this season we'll see Tom Thibodeau do things that are not quite Tom Thibodeau esque. And as much as he might want to run certain players with certain numbers, I think the injury concerns will make him, especially for how close they are to the playoffs, he'll have to somewhat expand his rotation.
Yeah, I think that's wise. For this home straight, definitely get guys some extra rest as much as
Yeah.
possible. We've seen what a difference that makes, like tonight. Having a
Yep.
couple days off, put in a performance like this. The good thing about the playoffs, though, EJ, is there's no back-to-backs. You always
Hmm.
get, and in some games, where the series moves cities, you get 2 days. I
Yep.
think in round one. So that is going to be key, and the Knicks have that depth, so that might be the advantage that we can have. This guy on screen, Jericho, yeah, is a player who got us 3 offensive rebounds tonight, six total, three on the defensive side, um, a put back at the rim, uh, 27 minutes. Yeah, he's been pretty reliable in his minutes as well. So yeah, he's probably going to get not going to get many minutes in the playoffs when Mitch is back. But what do you think about Jericho? And then give me your thoughts on Bogdan Bogdanovic and Alec Burks.
Jericho has had an interesting couple of weeks. You can see his youth. I think it was during the which game was it? What was the last game? Oh wow, I'm already forgetting. What was the last game? CT.
The last
Um,
game was a loss to Atlanta.
Atlanta. Yes. There were certain moments where it seemed as if um, Jericho was somewhat disconnected from the game. And I think that was like at times like a focusing, like a pacing issue, or sometimes it was an effort. I don't want to say effort. Effort is not the right word to use, but that was not the issue tonight. And I think that was part of like possibly getting rest, because part of what getting rest is also like the ability to get mental rest, like to be able to have the ability to check in mentally on a game, to see a play and to know, okay, this is what I have to will my body to do. I do know for a fact that if Mitch and if Julius are available in the next 2 weeks or so, Jericho's minutes will subside and decrease greatly. But that's okay. He's I believe, a third-year player. Um, those are those are the breaks for a team that's contending or possibly contending to move to the second round of the playoffs, possibly even an Eastern Conference final. That's what's going to happen. In terms of Bogdanovich, um, He's a very interesting player. I think one of the things that we have to consider is, is he fully healthy? There seems to be moments where, especially in the last week or so, he couldn't seem to get as much lift as we have seen him in the past. I think this is a player who has the possibility of exploding for 20 plus points. We've seen it in a Knicks uniform. I also think that he's a player who would really greatly benefit for when Julius Randle comes back. He seems to be the kind of player who knows his scoring potential and sees, especially as Jalen Brunson was banged up, that there's a void. There was a void offensively, and I think that he took it upon his shoulders to try to shoulder that load, and that leads to players forcing shots, taking ill-advised shots, not necessarily see their teammates creating open shots for themselves by leading to an extra pass. So I think that he's the kind of player who's smart enough to understand that if he can get settled in himself, that he'll be a better tool for the team. I think once Julius is back on the court, that'll allow for Boyan to have a more natural role as opposed to a role that encourages him to press and to take sometimes ill-advised shots or heat check shots, or to force the action. So I think that he's a player who most will benefit from a returning Julius Randle. Last but not least, Alec Burks. Uh, yeah, that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I was waiting for it, man. Yeah,
Yeah. Meh.
yeah. I'll give you my thoughts on him in a second. But yeah, I think yeah, Deuce. No, sorry, Sims. Yeah, as we were, I gave him a C plus, solid on the glass. Um, but yeah, in terms of Bojan, and your thoughts on him and my thoughts. Yeah, I think Julius returning is just going to have a trickle effect on everybody,
Hmm.
from top to bottom, because everyone's going to really fall back into the role that they really are intended to be in. And Bogdanovic's role is basically just supposed to be a 12 to 15 minute per night guy, space the floor off the bench with Deuce, with Hart. We have enough firepower with the starting unit when everybody's back. But what I see from Bogey more than anything now, he looks like he's a little bit tight. He's
Yep.
playing like he wants to impress the Nick fan base. He's playing like he
Hmm.
wants to really, he's playing tight and he's hard on himself because this is a big move for him.
Hmm.
He said it himself. Like he sees the Knicks as a great opportunity. He's been in the league for so long. He hasn't played for many like big franchises, so to speak. Talking about playing for some of these other teams he's been on, but he's got friends and family in New York City. We're obviously a great position to be in, top four seed. He's coming from Detroit as well, so yeah, he's playing tight. Defensively, that's not where he's gonna
Hmm.
do anything for us. Obviously when he's not playing many minutes, it's not going to be too bad. But when he's on the court, yeah, he needs to hit down. He needs to knock down the open three. The open three tonight was not too bad. 1 of 3 from deep, 2 of 6 in 11 minutes. So, but he won us the big game in Philly. Helped us win that ball game, EJ. So yeah, we've seen what he can do. And yeah, to your point, when Randall's back, like he was spraying the ball out. So I
Yeah.
think we're gonna get a couple bogey games where he's gonna be on a heater. And I think he's still got 19 games to go in the regular season. And I think he'll shake off that tightness, that rust, with more games. Just playing at MSG, playing more games with the Knicks as OG returns as well soon.
Yeah.
I do think yeah, Bogey's gonna might even win us a playoff game. And if that's the case, then that's gravy. That's what we need. But yeah, Deuce's 3 point shooting has really offset the need for Bogey to light it up every night.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with everything that you're saying. I think that the move was made um, for really securing an option to spread the floor for that second unit. And I think once the injury started to emerge, all of a sudden, the person who was supposed to solidify spreading the court in your second unit had to supplement what was missing in terms of the points that Julius Randle would normally score, what OG Anunoby would create in terms of that spreading the floor option. Because we also saw Thibodeau. leave Anunoby on the court with the second unit throughout the course of that month of January. So like that was intentional because he wanted someone to be able to spread the floor, for Deuce McBride as your backup point guard. Because you had other players on the floor who had somewhat inconsistent 3-point shooting. So for example, your Josh Hart's, as much as he's an energy guy, that 3-point shot comes and it kind of goes. So you needed that other player to ensure that there was a chance for shots to go down. And then you have the injuries come about, and they come about. And here's the other thing that I didn't get a chance to talk about, several months ago. What really made February difficult is that the injuries came about at the same time. So it's almost as if Bogey had to become several players in one, and it's beyond what he was intended to be when we traded for him. So I think that once OG comes back, I do think that we'll see a different um, Bogey.
Yeah, exactly, man. No doubt. Um, and then last but not least, my thoughts on Alec Burks. Yeah, again, just hasn't found any kind of rhythm and consistency. Um, Shake Milton is in the building. I'm not sure what you have much thoughts on Shake EJ, but uh, both are probably going to become situational
Yep.
back to the playoffs. I think Deuce is really winning that backup spot, and I think Tibbs keeping Burks's minutes this low is indicating that yeah he doesn't really have much trust. 5 minutes tonight, 0 of 2, -2, and a missed free throw. That was it from Burks tonight. Nothing else. So, I mean, his minutes are shrinking already,
Yep.
and it's like it's been 10 games now. I think maybe even 11 since the trade, 10 or 11 games, and he hasn't had one moment where it's like, yeah, man, this is Alec Burks. Like,
Yeah.
this is why we did the deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been slim pickings, man.
To his defense, I will say though, I do think, and this is hard to defend, so this is a little bit of a reach. And so everyone, buzzers, I'm just trying to be positive on my return back. I do think that he, if Bogey is trying to identify his role, Bogey sometimes takes shots that an Alec Burks would take. Um, and so I think that once you have whoever's supposed to be the floor general know definitely and assuredly that they're the floor general for that second unit, I do think that there might be several opportunities for an Alec Burks to have a moment or two. That being said, the fact that Alec Burks is losing minutes to a Deuce McBride, it's not the worst thing in the world. It's actually a great problem to have because, you know, I can imagine a world where an Alec Burks is not necessarily back on the roster next year, but a Deuce McBride will be on the roster next year. So um, it's a good thing that we got the insurance because Jalen Brunson, we need to make sure like we cover him with bubble wrap. But if he's losing minutes to Deuce McBride, that's the ideal scenario.
Yes, exactly, man. Burks is just a rental, as you said, and whilst we did make the move, it was insurance. It was a swing because we needed some depth.
Hmm.
But as you're saying, 100% agree. If Deuce is that guy that's stepping up, then you just take your losses with that trade at the minute. Although I do think that Bogdanovich will make it a neutral. Will help us out in the playoffs, obviously. But in terms of Tibbs, uh, the fact is that we're 13 and 6 away from 50 wins. What do you think of Tibbs at the minute? What can we expect?
I think this season, I think this is the season where, um, it's amazing when we first started this Knicks Buzz journey a couple of years ago. So many of our conversations would be about would Thibodeau last the season? Was he getting fired? I remember we had an episode um, about a year and a half ago where it was around the All Star break, and we had like this internal countdown clock as to when he was going to get fired and who might replace him. So it was the Kenny Payne conversations, and it was like, who would be the next head coach of the New York Knicks. Those conversations have subsided. I think that it's a small, very, very small, infinitesimal portion of the Knicks fandom that's even thinking, or even then a smaller one talking about replacing Tom Thibodeau. This season it'll be noted for not even so much as what Tom Thibodeau did, but what Tom Thibodeau did with the amount of injuries that really struck the team. And when the injury struck the team, normally his teams actually improve in the second half of the year. And for this team to still remain in the top four of the Eastern Conference, losing an All Star and a former All NBA player, losing a defensive presence as an OG Anunoby, and periodically losing Jalen Brunson, who in my book, let's just call it what it is. Jalen Brunson is a top five um, MVP candidate. Sorry, hate to say it. I know I'm a New York fan, biased, but it is what it is. So Tom Thibodeau does deserve immense amounts of credit for making sure that the ship remains righted. So great job. We're not talking about firing this coach. There's a very small minority talking about that.
Yeah, I've given Tibbs an A for tonight. He got us prepared for it. Blew the fourth seed, the Orlando Magic tonight. Great win, one of the best of the season. Held the team to the lowest in the NBA season. EJ,
Yep.
74 points, the lowest of any team, even the worst teams. Let alone, the Magic were pretty full strength tonight. They were
Yeah.
missing
Jalen
Jalen
sucks.
Suggs,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was such an impressive win. As we'll wrap up in a minute, but we want to look around the league.
Yep.
I just want to bring up the standings and the results tonight, right? And just look at what this win means, because the Knicks really helped themselves a lot with this win tonight.
Mhm.
As we know, we're jockeying with the Orlando Magic and a whole heap of other teams. So um, we've got the Bucks, who are currently losing, so that's a plus. The Sixers lost tonight,
Phenomenal.
103 the Pelicans to 95 the Sixers. Okay, unfortunately the Cavs picked up that clutch win over the Wolves.
Yeah.
Um, but looky here, the
Mm.
Miami Heat picked up a loss as well
Excellent.
against the Thunder. Now that's a pretty good strike rate. I'm going to
Yeah.
bring up the standings, and the Knicks sit back to where we belong in the fourth spot. We jump the Magic now. We have a half game lead on the Magic, and we have a 2 game lead on the Miami Heat, who are in six,
Yeah.
and also a 2 game lead on Philly as well. What do you see?
Well, I mean, I think that this right now is a fight to stay and get playoff games at Madison Square Garden. So I think that should be the priority. It would say a lot about how well this team has done. At the same time, I do think that the second seed and the third seed teams, um, I don't know how realistic it is that we can jump over both squads. Uh, Milwaukee seems to have turned the corner, so that's my concern. Cleveland, though, there's something about that team that kind of reminds me of the Hawks from a few years ago. They're a team that seems to do really well, but you wonder if it's for real. So that's the team that I keep my eye on.
Interesting. Yeah, I really was pretty high on the Magic, but I think their inexperience
Yeah, they're too young.
might might really prevent them. Obviously Paolo's great; he's carrying them. They need more guys to step up, like we saw tonight. I mean, the the playoffs are going to be a grind you out, lock you down, and the Knicks held the Magic to 74 points without our best defender and
Hmm.
arguably our best scorer in Julius Randle. Right, so things are looking pretty good for the Knicks at full strength, and I'm not forgetting about Mitchell Robinson. as well. I agree with you about the Heat. You can never discount them. They've shown they can play banged up. They can play short-handed as well.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, Philly, if they get Embiid back, that's a big factor. But yeah, I like our chances against the Bucks. So who who would you like to play in round one?
Oof. So this is assuming with a 4 seed.
Yeah, let's assume we get four. I think third's a possibility, but
I
let's
do think
stick
there's
with
a
yeah.
possibility as well too. Um, I think so. I do think that if we're going to be playing, if we're going to be third, which means that we'd be playing the 6 seed. Um, I do not want to play the Heat. I do not want to play the Heat in the first round. I have no interest in that. I think they're this. I think they're the second scariest team, not counting the Knicks. I think it's the Celtics, and then I think it's the Heat. Um, I think the team as the two best opening round matchups would be actually I'll give you three teams: the Magic, the Sixers, and the Pacers. Pacers and Magic in experience, and the Sixers. I don't know if Embiid comes back and is the dominant 100% healthy. Well, he's never 100%. I don't know if he comes back and he is the kind of force that he would need to be for the Sixers to be able to play exceedingly well in playoff basketball. I don't think that's going to happen. What are your
Yeah,
thoughts?
and yeah, I think coaching 100% agree with you. I don't want to see the Heat in round one. Not that I don't think the Knicks beat them, but I think they're going to bang us up. They're going to hurt us again. Julius Randle's shoulder as well. What do you think Bam Adebayo is going to be doing
Hmm.
with that? They know we're vulnerable if we are miss Randle for a game or we miss Brunson for a game. Um, but yeah, I think the Knicks can still beat a Heat in 6 or 7. Uh, Orlando, like Jerry's saying in the chat, Orlando, I think, yeah, would be one of the more favourable matchups because they're young. Full strength, we take them. Um, the Sixers, I want to see the Sixers. I think that's probably my top matchup. Without Embiid, obviously, and to your point, EJ, I don't think he's going to be 100%, even if he gets back before the playoffs. So yeah, hopefully the Sixers find their way back up to 5 and we face them in a first round series. Or maybe even the Pacers. I know some Knicks fans are a little bit apprehensive about Indiana, but in the playoffs, I don't buy them.
I don't buy them either.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too afraid. And then maybe third, the Bucks, third or fourth. I could see the Bucks falling down to 5.
Really?
Um, I could see them falling down, and maybe we play them there, or um, maybe we fall to 5, Bucks fall down to 4. I would feel really confident in that series as well. Because don't forget, we've got a guy that has never been able to guard. We've never been able to guard Giannis, and OG Anunoby is that guy. Like
Hmm.
and defensively, Damian Lillard is just he's a turnstile.
Yeah. No. No. I every when we get to the end of every season, the last 3 seasons we've been doing the show, I always look at this time period of the season, this period of time in the season, to begin to evaluate what are the teams that when we end the season that will be looking to make massive changes. The Bucks will be having a very fascinating offseason, be having an incredibly fascinating offseason. That Damian Lillard trade is going to have to be really reevaluated. Can you build a successful championship contending team with Giannis and Damian Lillard, and having lost what they had in Drew Holiday? It's
I still I still see why they had to do it though, EJ, because
mhm,
we've seen the regression from Chris Middleton, and I
mhm,
think it was obvious that Drew, Chris Middleton, and Giannis wasn't going to be enough as well. But what this does is it helped them lock up Giannis to a contract, and then even if Dame, even if it's not working out, they've got Giannis under contract, and they can trade him for a haul if he threatens to leave, or they trade Dame, and you can maybe still get some pieces for him.
Yeah, but the issue with trading Dame, and here's the issue though, I it's the OKC. Like if you get to the point where Giannis threatens to leave and he wants to be traded, Milwaukee ends up in this kind of OKC path where they're going to go from selling out that building to irrelevance for a while. And I think that's kind of scary for Milwaukee because, Milwaukee is not one of these places where you get free agents who sign if you don't have a Giannis there, if you don't have a Dame there. And I think the other concern with regards to Dame, Dame is one of those players that once he hit his age 30, 31 season, it was because you remember like 3 years ago, like everyone was like Dame to the Knicks, Dame to the Knicks, Dame to the Knicks. And then once he got to that year 30, that year 31 season, that kind of player becomes scary because you can't flip him again and get the haul that you spent to get him. It's the Brooklyn Nets James Harden trade, for example. There's a particular age where you make a deal and you'll never be able to get the same value in return if you have to flip that player again. So Milwaukee's going to be one of those teams to watch in the offseason and how it impacts the Knicks.
Yeah, and then what do you think about the Cavs in a series? Like, they're in the second seed, and Jerry's saying, in the second round will be a favorable matchup. I agree. I think
I
we
agree
took
too.
care of them without Spider, obviously, but even with Spider, with Mitch and all the bigs we've got, look at what Precious is doing. Mobley doesn't seem to have taken a next step, which I think was, for me, that was essential to the
Mm.
Cavs' championship level. Like, and that's what they're trying to do by trying to keep Donovan Mitchell. Evan Mobley had to become a star, and he just has not become that. And so all they do is two. They have two stars, and not enough.
Yeah, they're also another team that's going to be fascinating to watch in the offseason because with this new tax apron and new cap regulations and rules, there might have to be one of these teams that makes a decision as to how do we improve this roster if we're locked in with an Evan Mobley, if we're locked in with a Jarrett Allen, if we're locked in with a Darius Garland, if we're locked in with potentially a Donovan Mitchell. I they remind me a lot of the Atlanta Hawks, as I mentioned earlier, a team that on paper seems to have a championship possibility, and I'm not going to even say pedigree, because something happens, something gets in the way where they don't seem to, once they get to the playoffs, to really have the ability to play like a playoff team, like a serious championship contending team. So I think they're just a team that, you know, great regular season. I don't think there are many people in the league who are scared of them in the playoffs.
Yep, that would be us as well. And
Yeah.
the coaching is suspect, as
Yeah.
we've talked to some people who cover Cleveland as well, and the fan base is not fully sold on JB Bickerstaff as well. But as we wrap up, everyone, great show, great to have EJ here. But we end also on a positive note, is that OG Anunoby is cleared for contact scrimmaging. He's practicing fully, and he's day to day, right? And you guys are predicting already when he's going to be back next game. There's 2 games at home before the West Coast trip. I think it'll be good to sneak him in either the next Philly game, EJ, or the final Philly game before Portland, and he definitely travels with the team on the
Yes,
road.
definitely.
Yep,
Definitely.
what a huge boost. Any quick thoughts on that?
Yeah, if I were the Knicks, perhaps you get him in for that first Philly game if possible, so that if he needs to rest for that back to back, because we're going to need him on that West Coast trip. So that's a positive sign, and it'll have amazing ramifications for the rest of the roster. Looking forward to that.
Yes, sir. As I'm looking forward to this next 19 games, the Knicks reclaim the 4th seed tonight. We celebrate a big win, but let's win these 2 against Philly, EJ. It's tough to win a home and home baseball series, but the Knicks can do it because we've beaten Philly twice already. and it would be a clean sweep. Ladies and gentlemen, replay squad salute, smash that like button, the streets are buzzing, and we'll be back post-game on Sunday against Philly, right at the Mecca, as this home cooking continues. Great win by the Knicks, and hopefully we put our foot on the gas and reclaim. We'll basically, I don't know if we made third before. I think we were in third at one point, but let's take that third spot. Let's look up, right? Orange and blue skies. Everyone, peace.